Let's jump right in. So, everybody, thank you again for being here. We are talking about finding your niche or niche, different ways to reach your ideal client. And the last time I checked the poll, niche was the way, right?
Yeah, I think we're a niche group here.
Yeah, all right. So, what we're going to cover today are a few different things. We're going to go over the basics of niching or niching. We're going to talk about why this is such a hot topic and why Ann and I wanted to talk about it. We're going to go over some fears as well as some pros and benefits of having a niche, effective ways to do it. We're going to talk about how to attract your ideal clients once you figure out your niche and what it is you want to do. We're going to also talk about adjusting and expanding it as you grow and change. We'll have some time for question and answer. And then we're also going to share some additional opportunities and some other things that we have coming up as well. All right. So, Ann, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Ann Rice, and I'm an LPC here in Georgia and LMHC in New York, where I used to live, and a counselor supervisor. I have a private practice, group practice with three other clinicians, Firefly Wellness Counseling, and I've been a practice owner since 2017, I think. And then I also run a co-working space for therapists, which is Blue House Wellness. And along with the physical space, I do workshops like these, and other sort of practice building business stuff with that. So I really enjoy working with clinicians and helping them really figure out what they want to do with their practice and all of that. So, and was very excited to meet Cassie a couple years ago,
Yeah.
I think, so that I could even offer more with her.
Yeah. So, Ann, I'm so happy to know you and so excited to be able to do these things together. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cassie Gobb. I have worked in business development mostly for mental health treatment centers for, I think my bio still says 15 and I need to update it. It's about 17 years now. And through that work and just through the people I know and my connections, I started a coaching business and I'm really passionate about helping providers and people who work as service-based professionals getting comfortable with the business side of things because I know there is often a balance between helping people and the business side of things. And the one thing that Ann and I have in common is really we love empowering those people who go on and empower other people. It just makes all of us have better like lives and experiences and it just makes the world such a better place. So I love doing things like this and I love getting people more comfortable in the work that they do so that they can help the people that they really want to help. It's really exciting if you can't tell. I love it. Okay, so I know that the poll said niche. We all often say niche. Niche is also correct. We actually in the US tend to use niche a little bit more frequently, but niche is correct. And so you will hear Ann and I often going back and forth or using the words interchangeably. When we first talked about doing this presentation, my initial freak out was I don't want to say it wrong. And so I went down that rabbit hole and just think it's fun to know how other people say it and we all say it a little differently. And how do you say it more?
I have no idea. I think I say both more frequently. I think niche sounds nicer and fancier, um, which is sometimes good and sometimes weird. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I go back and forth. So you'll hear me switch. And I don't mean for that to be confusing. I think niche is more fun to say. Niche works better when I'm saying niching down.
Yeah.
So to niche or not to niche, that's the question. If you've ever Googled having a niche or not having a niche, you will have pages and pages and pages of people's opinions and thoughts about this. And it's really a hot topic because there is a lot involved into it. And as people, we tend to make it more complicated than maybe it needs to be. So if you guys in the chat want to share some fears or concerns or thoughts about having a niche in the chat, that would be great. We'd love to know kind of what your thoughts are as we move along. But here are some common fears that people have. People fear that having a niche is going to make things too limiting, right? You might be dependent on just one little small share of the market if you have a niche.
And I think for a lot of us therapists, we worry about like getting bored and always working with the same people all the time, and how that can feel really boring over time. So I think that's a big fear, especially among therapists.
Yeah. And then I think people too, similar to too limiting, people fear just getting stuck in just being able to do one thing and always having to do it forever, which then will cycle back into like the getting bored or there are not enough clients.
And then choosing wrong, that one always reminds me when I first started, I was like, I don't want to be known for working with teens. I don't think I want to work with teens forever. And then someone referred a teen to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to be stuck with teens. And I was worried I'd somehow put myself in this path and I'd now chosen wrong. But it ends up not actually being a problem. And I also love working with teens. So it has worked out just fine.
Yeah, and not knowing how to come up with your niche or what things you should be doing. We are going to cover all of that today. And the one thing I want everybody to know, that Anna and I both want everybody to know, is that there is no necessarily set right or wrong way to do it or set right or wrong thing to choose. Just like anything, this is a flexible thing, right? You can always grow and expand and change. Like you're never stuck in anything, and you're not going to choose wrong because you can always change. So the benefits of having a niche. The biggest benefit is for your ideal clients to be able to find you and connect with you. When you are clear on who you want to work with and what you want to do, like they'll find you and they'll know you're the right person.
It also makes things easier for marketing. So if you are able, you can be consistent in your marketing, your language, your copy on your website, Psychology Today, all of that. It becomes a lot easier to express who you are. And then people are like, oh yeah, that's the person that works with X, Y, and Z, creating easy referrals for you and filling up your business a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. And it also sets you up in a position to be able to do the work with the people and the clients that you enjoy doing the work with.
And then you're the expert. So again, like if a doctor or someone else is looking for a clinician who works with, let's see, Jace, you said you work with like kink community. So that's what they're looking for. They know to go to Jace, and that makes it easy. So you become the expert. People know to refer to you. They ask you questions, and then you can create either a bigger practice if you want, because you're the expert, or you can take it in other directions, such as public speaking and things like that.
And it really just helps you with all the business aspects, right? It's helping you differentiate yourself. It's helping you get clear for yourself. So you're taking steps and actions to grow in ways that you want to grow. It helps your clients find you. It's really important. Anna and I are very much having a niche and or a niche, because there are so many more benefits. And the one thing that stops people from doing it is kind of the fears around it. And the biggest fear is like, how do I do it? It's actually really easy. Again, I said like people, we tend to make things way more complicated than it needs to be, or we get in our heads about stuff. But we're going to break it down to 4 main ways to niche. The first way is with the who. So, who is it that you want to work with? It's not necessarily always like what you work with, right? Like whether you work with anxiety or trauma, it's who, what types of clients. Anne and I do, and we'll talk about this towards the end of the presentation as well. We do a full day workshop all around money, mindset, marketing, the ethics of it. But we really have a deep dive into what client you want to work with, the traits that they have, how do they show up in the work that you do together. For me, it's like I really want to work with people who are ready to step outside of their comfort zone, who want to do big things. They show up on time. They value the time that we work together. And do you have any of your
Yeah.
who's to share?
Yeah. So this is great for people who are like, oh, I like anxiety, I like depression, I like this, I like that, I like all these modalities. And you are having a hard time, coming up with a niche. Niche. See, I keep doing this now. You've made me self-conscious about it. And it's great for that, because then you can be like, you know what? I love working with like entrepreneurs. And so that can be entrepreneurs who are anxious or depressed, or who like EMDR, or who like mindfulness, and all sorts of different things. So it feels less limiting sometimes if you're like, you know what, I really love entrepreneurs because they have a specific type of mindset, and that's the type of person I like working with. And so that's my who. And so you choosing a who is great, again, if you want to work with lots of different people. And with all four of these different ways we're talking about, you're really going to choose one that you really focus on, and then you'll have a touch of the other three kind of that you also put on your copy and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, like Anne said, this is great for the people who want to work with a lot of different things, but remember, you can work with a lot of different things, but not everything. You can work with a lot of different people, but not everyone. So it's important to really get clear on who you want to be working with. The next way to niche is by the struggle. In the coaching world, we call this pain points. I know that's not always the easiest thing for people to hear, but it's really important for the clients that you work with. If you work with a particular thing and that's what you really want to work with, whether it's like somebody in the chat mentioned ADHD and executive dysfunction focus, right? If that's what you do, it's important to talk about that and make that struggle kind of the focus, because people who are struggling with it are going to want to find you and know that you are the person to work with them. It's really such an important one. It establishes you as the expert, but it also really makes you easily accessible to your ideal clients, and then also potential referral sources, coming back to that business component as well.
Yeah, the struggle, you can really think of it as sort of what's their diagnosis. That's an easy way to think about it. We don't usually want to use too much diagnosis language when we're doing marketing, but that's a helpful way for you to think about what you like working with. For me, I like, it's not just depression, but I actually like working with people who have suicidal thoughts. And so that's a more specific struggle that I can sort of narrow my focus on. With, maybe I choose entrepreneurs and maybe they're struggling with suicidal thinking. And that can be very niche. But it can be something that I can be known for.
And then the next way is by the offering. So this can be a couple of different things. As a coach, I have a couple of different ways people can work with me. There's like the freebie I have on my website. There are some group workshops, free talks like this, retreats, all kinds of different ways that people can work with me. And based on the offering, I can also then niche down from there. But I do have different offerings and ways for folks to work with me. As a therapist, I'll let Anne share how that might look as well.
Yeah, so this can be a little bit harder because there's some ethics for us around oftentimes we have to be careful if we're going to offer like discounts or sliding scale or things like that. But you can also think of offering as, individual therapy, group therapy. Maybe you have a specific therapy program that you offer. So those can all be different types of offerings in a way to think about it. And so, this may not be quite as like a popular, this might be a more very specific thing that you put somewhere else on your website. It may not be your main thing, but if you want to be known for like groups and like, I only want to do group therapy, that's my thing, that's my offering, then you can totally make that your number one thing that you're trying to advertise and do. So there's definitely ways for therapists to use sort of the offering niche on their website in a way that doesn't necessarily have to involve pricing directly. But, groups can definitely, allow you to offer more reduced things. I think in the last time we did this workshop, we even talked about doing like business partner therapy, friend therapy, things like that. So you can get really creative. I think sometimes we get stuck in our ways as therapists, but there's a lot of different offerings that you can have. So definitely get creative if you feel like, individual one-on-one therapy is not for me. There's a lot of things that you can do. And please throw in the chat if there's something a little bit different that you've done or would like to do. I'd love to hear some of the ideas because we had some cool ones come up with the in-person workshop when we did that.
Yeah, I think one of the other ones was a walk and talk therapy offering. And I thought that was incredible. So there are different ways to get creative with all of these. The last way to niche is through the tools that you use. This is also, you can think of this as kind of the process that you work, whether it's you use EMDR or brain spotting or ACT, DBT, all the three-letter things that happen in the therapy world or just in the world in general. I use EFT tapping. That's one of the tools I use. So that's a small kind of sub niche that I have. So just kind of like the way in which you work or do therapy. I know, especially for like EMDR, that's like a real specific thing. So you can work with all kinds of different diagnoses and all kind of different people, but you love, if that's the tool you love and you want to use with everybody, like that could be your niche.
Yep, exactly. I use a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy and mindfulness. And what's helpful about talking about the tool is like sometimes that's not appealing to people. And I frankly probably don't want them as my client if they're not into at least trying some mindfulness or trying some of those things. So I am careful with the language that I use because I know that it's going to attract the right clients who will actually use the tools that I have to offer and that I'm going to offer them. And I think we've probably all had those clients who just don't want to do the things that we are telling them to do. And they're just probably not our ideal client, and that's okay. And there might be a different tool that is better for them. So that's why it's really important to be clear on your tools that you use because you will have much more successful therapy.
And Anne brought up a good point. That's another reason I think she already mentioned, right? It's important to touch on all four of these areas of your practice and for yourself and for the vision you have of the work that you do, and to get really specific on one. So if ACT therapy or ACT therapy is, I'm just assuming there's also a three-letter acronym for acceptance and commitment therapy. If that's really your thing, that's awesome. That can be your main focus for your niche. But then you also want to work with people, people who are open to doing that or using that modality at some point, or open to even having conversations about it. So you're touching on the who, but you're really focusing on that tool, if that makes sense. I think also, for me, I'll share a little bit. My main focus of my niche is really the who. I primarily work as a coach with service-based providers who work as helpers in some capacity. A lot of times that is therapists, counselors. I've worked with other coaches. I've worked with energy workers, intuitives, but my who is really those service-based people. I really love working with people who have big hearts for doing big work and want to make an impact in this world. And then I have all the other things. I have the tools I use. I add some woo-woo things into the work that I do, whether it's pulling a tarot card, whether it's doing energy work, tapping, or Psyche balances. So I use a few different tools. I have a few different offerings for folks, and I'm always kind of adjusting and changing based on, like what feels right for me and what works for my schedule and what things I really love doing. I love doing one-on-ones, but I really love doing groups. And so I'm going to be adding some more groups. So that's also an example of how things can be flexible. And you kind of, if you wanted to share more
Yeah.
about your focuses.
Yeah, so I think that, what's so important. So I love, so I do like working with teens, but was worried about becoming like too known for that. But I realized that it was because I wasn't being super clear about the type of teen that I like working with. And so for me, it's a very specific age range. Like I love middle schoolers, so the preteen, early teen ages. And sort of when they hit that like 17, 18, 19 age, I'm like, not like loving this life stage right now. So I have gotten more clear about like these are the ages I really enjoy working with. So it's not just teens. And then, also I really pay attention to, the types of teens that wear me out or who I feel good about working with or who I feel like I do work with, who I work well with. And so again, that's where sort of the tools that I use come in, handy. I like playing games or drawing or doing sort of creative things during sessions. But I also love the teens who just talk nonstop. So those are sort of two different, tools or areas that I can work with. And again, getting clear with parents like, hey, this is what I like to do. These are the types of teams that I work with, and they know their kid and if it's going to work or not. So it's not about being able to work with every teen out there, regardless of what, issues they have. It's about really finding the teens that fit my personality, so that I know that we can do good work together because it benefits everybody. And then I get more referrals and it's just a win all around.
And just a couple of tips if you're still like, I still don't know exactly what I want to do and how I want to niche. you might want to reverse engineer it. So think about like, what would you absolutely hate doing? Like, what things would you do almost anything to avoid doing? Like, I would not do great working with middle schoolers. That is out. So like if I can eliminate some things, it's easier for me to decide like who do I want to work with, or what things, what diagnoses, what things, what characteristics do I not like working with, and that might help you clarify a little bit as well. All right, I just want to take a minute to check in on everybody. How's everybody doing? Feel free to type in the chat. Let us know if you had any insights or questions, if they've come up. We're going to shift a little bit. So now that you've got some clarity on how to niche, kind of why we feel it's very important and why it really is a benefit to you as a provider or as somebody who works with clients, we're going to shift a little bit to how to market this and how to reach your ideal clients, because ultimately you want clients, you need clients, and they need you. People need help and they need to know how and where to find you.
And I just want to say that's, I think Cassie, you said that when we like first met, that like marketing, I think as therapists, sometimes we feel icky about it and all of that, but you saying that like clients need to know that you're there so that you can help them. And I was like, well, duh, of course. Cause I'm like sitting here in a corner, just being like, okay, hopefully they'll find me and maybe they're okay with my fees and all of this stuff. But knowing that like, no, they need to hear my message. They need to know I'm out there so that I can actually help them. That was really kind of a switch for me. So I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, I think too, just helpers naturally, this is why I love working with them so much. They naturally don't want to ever pressure anybody to do anything. And they think like sales and marketing is this very pressury, forceful thing. And it's not, it doesn't have to be. There are people who are that way, and that's just the people, that's not the sales. So really sales and marketing is like letting people know what you do, how you can help them, and inviting them like, hey, I think if we're a good fit, like let's work together. Let's do good things in this world. Yeah. Our this first bullet point is Anne and my like motto. We share it all the time in the course I mentioned that we do together. Um, we have a saying, clear is kind. We bring it up about 40,000 times during
Yes.
that presentation, that workshop, because clear really is kind. You don't want anyone to leave wondering what it is you do and whether or not you can help them, right? Whether that's a referral source. If I have a client who I know needs a particular thing and I think of you and I'm like, I don't know if that's even the right person, that's not helpful for me because now I don't know where to refer this person to. It's not helpful for the person if they stumble across your website to know whether or not like, oh, is this like I was referred over here, but like, are they the right person? Really important to be clear. So once you are clear for yourself with your niche, it's important then to be clear in every other aspect. So you are reaching the people that need you, that you can help, but also the people that you love to work with.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times, I've I've had, clients reach out to me and they're like, well, thank you for, putting your pricing on your website or putting your schedule out there and, all of these things, because I think, so many of us are again afraid to like put all of this stuff on our website, pricings, things like that, because we feel like, it's somehow we're not supposed to talk about these things. And so I think clients need to know if we're the right person for them or not. And if we're not, that's okay. And they can move on. And we'll find the person who is right for us.
I also think too, one of the things that people tend to be influenced by is what they think other people in their profession are going to think. And that's another thing, like once you are clear on what it is you do and like that you're passionate about it, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Generally, people are excited that you are doing the work that you're doing and you're often inspiring them. So you showing up and being seen and talking about what you do and what you love to do, it it's just a benefit all the way around. It's like we said, great for your clients, great for your referral sources, great for your business, great for yourself, and then great for all of your colleagues too, because they see you doing it and then it inspires them to do it as well. And then we have this great ripple effect. The other thing with being clear is being consistent. So if you have a niche, if you are changing in any way, and we'll touch on this again or a little bit as well, but just really being consistent, making sure that all of your listings list the same information. Make sure your website says the same information that your listings say. Make sure all of that matches what you say when you are verbally talking about what it is you do. It's really important to be consistent. Again, clear is kind.
Yes. And just a tip that I do, because it is hard to keep up with all of the listings. I forget sometimes where I'm listed. And then I'll get like an email or something. But I finally created I love Trello. If you don't know what Trello is, you need to check it out. Or I have a little training on that. But I have a Trello board that has, every a checklist of like every single listing that I have available, so that every time I update any of my messaging, I can just go down that checklist and I know I need to go to these websites. And then I also copy and paste every iteration I've like ever had of my messaging. And it's on, again, my Trello board on these cards. And so I can look back on past things, see how things have changed or something stays consistent, but then I can just copy and paste it so easily into new things. And it just makes it a lot easier because it's all in one place. So I highly suggest having it in one, place so that it's easy to access.
I aspire to be as organized with my Trello board as Anne is. A couple of other things in terms of like reaching your ideal clients is, if you are comfortable, I know as therapists, there are some different things around this, but sharing your story a little bit helps. So if you've struggled with this particular issue, or if you're just passionate about it for any particular reason, that can be really powerful to share. If you've had a family member struggle with something that you're really passionate about working with, if you work with a traumatic loss or grief, if there's something that you'd been through or just a reason why, I would encourage sharing that without being too personal, right? Like, you do want to have some sacred space around it, but it is important for people to understand that you really get it. So in some way of sharing either some of your story or just sharing a reason why you're passionate about it can help your clients really connect with you and know that you are the person that gets it. And then, talk about what you do loud and proud. And if you are uncomfortable talking about what you do, just practice talking about what you do to your friends and to yourself in the mirror. And sharing and letting people know is really important. Again, it's not the goal of like, oh, here, how great I am, and this is what I do. It's not about you. It's really about your clients who need you.
Absolutely. And that reminded me of one other thing is I sort of treat everyone that I meet and as someone who's either like a potential client or a potential referral. And that's not in an icky way, and it doesn't change the way I interact with them. But it is letting them know like what I do, because they might have, a cousin or a brother or whoever who really needs my help. And I am then able to share that with this person, and they are able to send my information along. And I have had people reach out years later saying, hey, I met you at this thing. I really need your help. I think you're the right therapist for me. And, I'm glad that I shared what I do. Again, it's not this weird salesy thing. It's, hey, I'm good at this. This is what I do. This is how I help people. And then you move on and you let them know, but you don't talk about it, the whole time, but you at least share it. And then people can reach out.
Yeah. And even if you're not the person to help them, you probably know somebody. So it's always great to share. So what do you do if you have a niche or you've been working with something, or people just have decided you are the person, like you're the teen therapist and you're like, I don't want to work with teens anymore. How do you adjust and expand and kind of, for lack of a better phrase, rebrand yourself? First of all, like, you'll know when it's time. I think people get so nervous about like, is this the best time to niche? Is this the best time to change? Listen, if it's on your heart to change, it's the right time. There's no right time, wrong time. If you're feeling called to make a change or to expand to the offerings that you're having, or if you just feel inspired to do it, that's a good time.
Absolutely. And then, what change might look like. So, thinking about what what else is out there. Is it the teens that I keep going in on these teens. I really do love working with teens. But maybe the teens are just, really driving you crazy, and you're done with that and you're like, you know what, I really think it's adults now. Like, that's just what I want to do. I'll figure out the rest of it later, but I at least know like I'm done working with teens. So I'm going to cut off my teen hours and we're just done with that. So I think, thinking about like how might my life change if I choose a different path? So maybe it's the hours or something like that.
And then I guess back to, is it time, and tied in with the being open, like perhaps you went to a training and you learned a new skill.
Yeah.
Maybe like you've just opened yourself up to something new that you really want to incorporate or explore and add that in. Just being open to what is really filling your cup and keeping you excited. Especially as therapists, you guys, it's hard, heavy work. It's a lot of emotional work. And so just be open to like what is really lighting you up and keeping your cup full. And really changing is kind of an easy flip, right? It's easy to add things. It's easy to let people know. And back to our famous motto that I promise I will only repeat 40 times from here on out is clear is kind. So if you are completely changing from teens to adults, just let your current clients know and be really open about it. And then back to consistency, right? Like if that's a change you're making, make sure everything is updated saying that.
And I have a story about being open. So I, again, work with a lot of teens, and I recently have started meeting. I mean, I've always met with like parents to work on things, but I had a more like focus, like it was like a parent strategy session, and I was just talking with friends, and I was like, man, I really enjoyed that. Like it was really fun. And my friends were like, well, why don't you like offer that? And I was like, but that's not what I do. And they're like, why not? And it's silly, but it just felt, I think, mentally hard for me to shift to like, oh, I could start doing these like parent strategy sessions. I enjoy them. And I was like, oh, but then I have to update my website. It felt like a lot. But when I actually like sat down, I actually updated my website and all of that. And I've had a few of those, and it's wonderful. I love them. I love that work. And so just being open, like, yeah, there's a little work to change things around or add something new, but it is so worth it in the end when like I don't feel as burned out as I was feeling, and I feel so much better. So definitely be open.
Mhm. And that ties right back into going back to your whys. Like, why is this something that you want to work with? Why does it feel good? Why? Like, your personal whys are also really important in this process of deciding your niche, right? Ultimately, you are helping people who are struggling with whatever it is you're working with in whatever way you're working with. But when you have that clarity, it's just going to be so important, not only again for your business, but for those clients, right? Back to why does it fill you up? Why do you like doing it? And then when you do get burnt out or in a place of um, considering changing your niche or not, like you go back to your whys, and that will help you make your decision and make the process, and that little bit of work that pays off in the end, it'll make it so much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. I in any of like the coaching that I do with therapists, any of that, it is always like, let's vision board it, like let's go to the whys. So important. So yeah, so if you do decide to adjust your niche or expand to something new, make sure you are auditing your outreach efforts. So that means, who do you network with? Who have you, talked to? Are they the right people? Because let's say I didn't want to work with teens anymore, and I have all these, high schools or whatever on my mailing list and all of this stuff, that's not helpful anymore. And so really making sure that your outreach efforts get audited, that you start reaching out to new people who are going to be referring your new ideal client to you. And again, this is a great time for a Trello board or a Google, Sheets or whatever you use. Write down all of the people that you have contact with, all the businesses, all of that, and keep track of like, when did I last talk to them? When did I last reach out to them? Do I need to reach out to them again? Do I need to update them about my services? And, sending like a monthly email and just being like, this is who we work with. This is what we're doing.
And if you don't have an email list or an email provider, Mailchimp, I think you can still do free. Flowdesk is the thing I use. It's just such a good way for people to be able to stay in your network and kind of in your little sphere. So if you change, or if maybe they have a referral for you, it's good to keep people updated and reminded. And you should always have your own list of contacts, just just to have, because it's
Just
important to
always.
stay connected, because there's a chance that you're going to need a referral too of somebody who works in a different niche or area than you work. Also, it's important to kind of just be creative and crafty and think outside of the box. Like, we all network and we all do different things, but maybe reaching out to a police department or a fire department or the news media if you are really brave. All of these things are different ways. And when you're, again, are clear on your niche, it's easy to find the right fits for yourself. I think too, we talked when we did this live, we shared know all of your business development reps. So every treatment center, every large group practice, like everybody has a rep. Their job is to also know other people. And so it's the best question you can ask when you meet with anybody, especially business development reps, just say, hey, is there anybody else that I should know or connect with? Or do you think that, would be a good fit for me to know or for them to know me? It's a great way to stay connected. Everybody hanging in so far? Pop in the chat, let us know. So we're going to come back to questions after the recording, but we did want to share with you, if you are excited about this, if you want to keep learning, we do have 2 additional free workshops. Next month, we're talking about expanding your reach, knowing when to add on services and hire help. So we're kind of growing on that expanding kind of topic. Then we will be talking in December about marketing basics for private practice, the top 3 things that you should know. And we'll have both an in-person if you're in the Atlanta area, as well as a virtual option for these as well. And then they will be also available on demand, so you can come back and watch if you're not able to make the live. And then Anne, I will let you talk about our awesome one-day retreat.
Yeah, so we're really excited. We've done this before and it was so much fun. There were tears, there was laughter. It was so much fun, but it's our money, mindset, marketing, and more course. And so, and there are 3 CEs approved by the LPCA of Georgia, or there will be. And it is going to be a full day retreat this time. So, before we sort of did a half day thing, this is going to be next level. It's going to be really fun. Very intensive workshop. Again, like I said, there were tears. Last time it was intense, and not just my tears, although I cried too. We did a lot of really great work because money is hard. It's hard to talk about. It's hard for us as therapists. It's hard to charge people when we just want to help them and we see that they're in pain. But we got to make a living because this is a job and not a hobby. And there are ways to offer, help to people who maybe cannot afford your services while still making money. And so we talk a lot about those things, the ethics around it, and just, really leaning into the money piece. And even since doing this workshop, it's constant work for me. So I am excited to do this again because I know I'm going to learn. And, the last time we did this, I bumped my fees up. They're at $225 now. And I've gotten new clients and it just blows my mind all the time. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be amazing. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
I shared in the live version. I am an inconsistent Instagrammer, but one of the reels that got the most comments and the most DMs was I shared a reel saying that your clients can't be your primary focus. Your business has to be your number one focus, because if you don't have a business, then you're not in a position to be able to help the people you want to help. And I stand by that. And we dive deep into this course, and I love doing it. And I still learn. It's an ongoing process. And it's a lot of fun. And the bonuses are incredible. There is a 90-day social media planner. There are letter templates. You get 2 professional headshots, which that's probably the point where people had the most tears, because nobody likes getting their picture taken.
That's intense.
Yeah, there were actually no tears in that part, but it's such a really wonderful event. You get a chance to deepen your community, grow your confidence in yourself, in the niche and the area that you're working. So it's really for anyone who works as a service provider. It's geared a little bit towards counselors and therapists, but it is open to anyone. The CEs are for therapists. And how to save your spot if somebody is interested.
Yes. So actually the same page where you guys sign up for this workshop, and I can put the link in the chat too. You can join the waitlist there just by putting in your email, and you can join the waitlist, and we will get you information as soon as all of that goes live.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording and we will open it up to question and answer as well.